We all know LSU coming off their open date. There is one question we all want answered, and we have had to sit here and chew on this disgusting Ole Miss loss for 2 weeks now. We've had to sit here for 2 weeks and analyze and overanalyze and discuss and opine and wonder, is Garrett Nussmeier really hurt? Can they run the football? Is the offensive line terrible? Is it Joe Sloan's fault? And we have just been in this spin cycle of an echo chamber of the same stupid conversation for 2 weeks without any type of answer, resolution, or advancement. Well, Saturday, we get to advance the conversation. Now, I'm going to be completely transparent, not that I would ever lie to you. I told you before the Ole Miss game that I was willing to be patient with this offense because I understood the logic into why it was slow to start. I could buy the reasoning that, hey, look, 5 new starters on the offensive line. You're on the road at Clemson, night, tough environment. You want to be a little more conservative, have Nuss, lean on the defense and have Nuss protect the football and be efficient. You want to get it. Florida comes in, same thing. The only thing that could wreck the game like what happened a year ago in Gainesville was that defensive front ruining your day. Florida wasn't moving the football, so you punt, you play defense, field position, you get out of there with a win. I could buy that. And then we saw them be explosive against Southeastern. I'm not concerned about Southeastern, the score, because it's an FCS team. I mean, just watching Nuss do the things that we thought he could do physically. And I said, but look, you go to Ole Miss, who I watched Ole Miss getting a quagmire against an awful Kentucky team. I watched Ole Miss give up 500 yards to Arkansas. Like, you go to Ole Miss and struggle to move the ball against that sorry defense, I'm going to change my tune. And so I've spent 2 weeks not preaching anything to you about how good this offense is, can be, was, don't matter. The reality is you played 5 games. You are not good on offense. And you've now had a week off, 2 weeks to get healthy, the healthiest you'll have been since you started the season, and 2 weeks to try to figure out if you can get anything going in this run game, anything going on the offensive line. And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not here to make any bold prediction about what will happen in that respect. All I know is I got a 5-game sample to know what this team is offensively, and what it is not very good. But I always say in every sport, teams are allowed to improve as the season goes along, and that's no different for this LSU offense. They are allowed to improve. I think the offensive line will develop more continuity. I think as you get healthier, you could certainly be better. I don't want to minimize the absence of Caden Durham against Ole Miss and how that might have limited your willingness to run the football, because, my goodness, they were not very willing to run the football against Ole Miss. So Brian Kelly meets with reporters on Thursday after practice, and he's asked about this team being conservative offensively. And I'm going to give you some past context, but this is what Brian Kelly said about his offense on Thursday night, if they're maybe planning to open things up a little bit more.
You know, if you look at the way we played the game the last 2 games, it's been much more aggressive on 4th down. You know, I feel like our offense is ready to break out. I don't want to hold them back from that perspective, that we go in with this mindset of punt it deep, hold them down there, wait for a turnover. I don't think we're going to play that way. We're going to play to the assets that we have on offense. So I'm not going to go into the game thinking, you know, this is a low-scoring game. Keep the points down, kick field goals. I think we go in there with the expectations, kind of the question that was asked earlier, is that my expectations are we're going to continue to progress offensively and be much more consistent for 4 quarters.
Okay. Progress offensively, be more consistent. We're not going to go into it saying punt, play field position. He says, they've been more aggressive on 4th down for what it's worth. Against Clemson, LSU went for 1 4th down in that game. They missed it. They were 0 for 1 in that football game. Against Florida, I'm not really concerned about Louisiana Tech or Southeastern Louisiana. Against Florida, LSU did not attempt a 4th down. They were 4 of 14 on 3rd down and did not go for it once on 4th down. Then you look at the Ole Miss game now. There were scenarios where late in game you had to be a little more aggressive, and LSU was 2 for 2 on 4th down in that game. They were 2 for 11 on 3rd down, but they were 2 for 2 on 4th. So he's not lying. They did go for it a little bit more than they did at the beginning of the season. So that's worth mentioning. But I want to remind you, this is not me saying it. These are Brian Kelly's words. After that ugly offensive performance against Florida where you force 5 turnovers and your offense only scores 13 points and there was the dust up in the postgame. Brian Kelly said in the postgame, like, the way they played offensively was intentional. Listen.
We did whatever was necessary to win the game. Defensively, obviously, the 5 turnovers, playing to our defense. Grant Chadwick was outstanding. I'm sorry that that doesn't sound appealing to you folks, but I really don't care. We're trying to win football games. We flipped field position. I think he had 4 inside the 20. He was our weapon on offense today, and that's how we needed to win the game. We came up with a big play with the run at the end of the game to salt it away, and just really, really pleased with our guys and the way they handle things.
How defiant. I mean, that was after Florida when you won 2010. I'm sorry that doesn't look appealing to you, but I don't really care. He's trying to win football games, whatever it took. And on that day, you knew Lagway was not moving the football, so we're not giving them a short field by going for it and being aggressive. We're going to punt play. It reminds me of that game that was Milesian at its finest or worst. That game against Auburn, I believe it was 2012. LSU won like 12-9 or something like that. And it was a game I'll never forget. Auburn was a miserable football team that year. LSU won the game on the road, and they didn't even try offensively because they knew they could play defense, and Auburn was not moving the football. And Miles in the post-game press conference just to finally, punt it again, just punt it again. That defense, you kidding me? Just punt it again. And they won the game, if that's the objective. And you can win games that way. You cannot win championships that way. Eventually, you're going to have to bust out. I asked Brian Kelly this after Clemson. It was the Monday after Clemson. I said, hey, look, because you had, in previous years, 2023, Jaden Daniels, man, you got to be aggressive because your defense ain't going to stop anybody. You got to go for it. Are you, I asked him again after Clemson, are you maybe going to change your strategy a little bit with this team because of how good your defense is? This is what he said.
It did during the game, actually. That's why we punted from our own 40 going in. We punted the 40 because our defense analytics would have had us going for it at that time. But I love the way our defense, I don't like the way we pinned the football. We'll have to get better there on our sky kicking. But that was exactly to your question. That's why we punted the football there from the 40-yard line.
So Brian Kelly was telling you early in the season, they were changing their approach. Not my opinion, his words. They were changing their approach offensively with how they were trying to win games. Okay, and then you get clipped against Ole Miss, and now going into this game, he's telling you point blank, we're not going in there just to play defense and field position and punt the ball. We've got to be aggressive. Why? Because eventually there's going to be a game where you're going to have to be aggressive to win the game to get where you want to be. Because you could play this approach you're doing right now, and you can win 8-9 games, but nobody here is going to be pumped about this team winning 8-9 games and ended up in the Gator Bowl. The objective is, how do you get in the college football playoff, be playing your best in December, January, and try to go win a national championship? The defense is good enough, the special teams is good enough, and you have a quarterback who has proven in his college career that he can be good enough. And you've got plenty of good, of skilled guys on the outside. Your offensive line is a work in progress, but eventually you're going to have to throw them into the deep end and say, are you going to sink or can you swim? And this feels like one of those games where you got to do it because your defense is going to be plenty good enough in this game to pin down a bad offense. So let's see if they can get going. I'm not going to predict it's going to happen, but Brian Kelly's telling you point blank, there is a contrast in what he's saying now and what he was saying in the first month of the season with how they're trying to approach this offensively. And we're going to find out Saturday if it's going to work. So we'll talk plenty about LSU and South Carolina.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.